Rolex is king of the watch world, right down to the crown. They were destined to reign. But can they be taken down? Yeah. Could another manufacturer one day wear the crown? Yes. I'm going to break down my entire process into 4 different sections, and by the end of it, I'm going to take a hard line stance, I think proving my position. I'll give you a hint. Yeah. Boom, watch fam. What is up, watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop, where I source a whole bunch of vintage Rolex and Omega, very apropos for today's conversation. Today, I'm wearing my vintage Omega Seamaster, a watch that my parents gifted me for my 21st birthday. I have it paired with one of our American-made straps, the Mojave, beautiful light brown ostrich, a little bit of yellow. I think it matches the dial really well. Our strap shop is stocked. Michael, please put the whole photo here of all the different colors. I love curating the different straps here. They're from France, Italy, and the United States of America. Visit our strap shop for all your leather needs. Let's get into today's conversation. For a brand to beat Rolex, I think 4 important things need to happen. So let's get into them. First, a problem. People are getting fed up with Rolex. Sure, the allure to the unattainable is very strong, but going on 4 or 5 years now, it's getting pretty tired. Normal people, those who like watches but aren't obsessed, the average watch consumer in the world doesn't want to get jerked around by the brand they're trying to give money to. Sure, we, the watch geeks, tend to be masochists. We like to devote great portions of our days to the hunt. That's not normal. We aren't the average client. So when that customer, the average guy, or even watch geeks like us, go into an AD, 2, 3, 4, 5 times over the course of several years and are denied service, basically, or they're told that they have to wait years with full deposit, or they have to purchase thousands of dollars in other inventory to be even considered for a Rolex, they get frustrated. They become disinterested. Maybe even the word disgusted is appropriate. They look to other counters. They explore other brands. And in that, there's an opportunity for other manufacturers to steal that attention. And Omega, being a brand with deeper roots in the industry by over 50 years and achievements as grand as Rolex's, the moon for God's sakes, and a brand image rather similar to Rolex's, meaning sporty and luxurious watches, is positioned perfectly. Omega is the most logical successor to the throne. That's for sure. But why do I think that there could even be a dethroning? Naming a logical successor is only, a very small portion of the battle. I think that Princess Eugenie is 10th in line to inherit the throne, but there's no reason for us to believe that the other 9 successors are going to all die, right? So why? Why the possibility for dethroning? Culture shift. And before I get into it, I do want to remind you all that we are giving away a Rolex Datejust, one of my favorite watches of all time. While we're talking about Rolex being in possible limbo, let's remember that it still is the crown and will ever be a fantastic watch. So for all the instructions on how to win, stay tuned until the end of the video. And if you do, you will be eligible to win a free Rolex. And how do you beat that? Okay, back into it. Back to the culture shift. Rolex has an image. There's no doubt. And that image, historically and right now, is very in. It's very popular. But society's values shift. What is cool is always changing in one way or another. Think about the clothing industry. It wasn't that long ago that, rich meant beautiful suits, even, 3-piece suits, even in the summertime. And now it means, cashmere joggers, something completely opposite. Now the suited up guy is looked at as a hardo, someone that's trying to impress, but really doesn't have much to be impressed by. This started many different ways, but look at the famous scene in Social Network, when Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most important people in the world, walks into a meeting in his pajamas, right? It became cool to be casual, even maybe underdressed. And Rolex, the crown, could be very well in danger of being perceived as too stiff, too on the nose, too old, your grandfather's watch. In fact, there could be a time in the future where the only Rolexes that are socially acceptable or socially cool are your grandfather's watches, because they're less ostentatious, more sentimental. That isn't impossible. In fact, it's rather likely with the way the society is shifting. Our society isn't getting more formal and more rich and shiny. It's getting less and less every day. But luckily, pursuant to my prior point about a lack of availability, your grandfather's Rolex may be the only Rolex that is in your future anyway. So, Here's proof of what I'm saying specifically in watches. Let's put clothing aside. Look at what the Royal Oak, the Nautilus, did in the 1970s. Right? They introduced an entirely new definition of what was cool. They changed the idea of sex appeal. They changed the whole public's idea from fine gold, thin, manually wound watch, right? Elegant, to industrial, sporty, tough. They changed everything that we knew about luxury in watches. And it hasn't just happened once, and it's certainly going to happen again. But maybe next time, Rolex won't be on the good end of the coin. So the question is, how do brands capitalize on or influence culture? Marketing, something that Rolex was once renowned for. Their aggressive and inventive marketing campaigns carried the brand to its current position, but since they've seized. We'll see the occasional James Cameron video campaign, which, while brilliant, isn't nearly frequent enough nor distributed well enough. And beyond that, we're stuck with billboards and magazine ads and brand placement at the US Open. Altogether entirely uncompelling. So the question is, how long can Rolex rest on their marketing laurels? How long can Rolex ride the wave of their past media achievements? Now, on the other hand, Omega, while not clear thought leaders in digital storytelling, very well may be more open to more inventive and convincing and culturally impactful content. And I can tell you with certainty, after having spoken to the brand directly, that they are. I wouldn't say that their actions currently are representing that idea very well, but I'll tell you, you will see a shift very soon. The brand is open to truly impactful media. But what about the sheer market appetite? Rolex is Rolex, right? I mean, it's the only brand that you can trade for water anywhere in the world. It's the only brand that could achieve that level of recognition and desirability. Well, that's not true either. It's wrong. In fact, Omega is already doing it in large part. Their Speedy Tuesday limited editions not only sell out online almost immediately, but they trade at significant premiums on the aftermarket, very similar to Rolex sports models. And it's not just the Speedy Tuesdays. Look at the modern Omega 321, the watch that the entire watch market thought was a moonshot that wouldn't work. Another piece that's trading at significant premiums. And these realities, the success of these models does virtually nothing for Omega's bottom line, but what it does do is prove concept. Omega has been able to show the world that they are a force to be reckoned with, that their watches too cannot just be desirable at auction, which they are certainly, but even modern watches will fly from the showcases, maybe even not even make it into the showcases, that Omega watches can be desirable enough for people, a lot of people, actually pay significant premiums over retail to acquire. And that proof is worth a hell of a lot more than the actual dollars that the campaigns brought in. And think about this. It's not just Omega that has chewed into Rolex in the last decade. While the Date 840 remains the go-to bling starter watch for any, young celebrity in sports or in entertainment, you're seeing a big shift of attention after that starter piece. You're seeing a shift of attention into brands like Audemars and into Patek Philippe, something that is absolutely unprecedented. You never heard these, hot horology brands in culture like rap until fairly recently. but they've crept in really strong. When Tupac was alive, for instance, the Day-Date was the watch to have. It wasn't the most expensive watch in the world, but it was the watch to have. Now, you'd be hard-pressed to find a rapper as important and significant that doesn't have a significant collection of precious and complicated Royal Oaks and Nautilus. And while the average Joe, the 26-year-old metropolitan professional, probably isn't buying a rose gold tourbillon, Royal Oak, he is influenced by his cultural icons. He wants to associate with the brands that they own, the brands that are now hot and recognized by the public, maybe even the female public. What Rolex was to so many because of Paul Newman, Patek is to so many because of Jay-Z. It's a different world. But part of Rolex's genius that allowed them to totally capture the mass market, unlike Patek and AP, is that Rolex was able to sell you the clout of uber luxury at a relatively attainable price point. Something that Patek and AP have never been interested in, and thus remain a non-threat in the bulk of Rolex's business. But that's not the case for Omega. They are consistently undercutting Rolex in price and possibly even over-delivering in value for dollar, specifically when you start looking at their technical innovation. Much in the same way that we are in the early chapters of the history of film, being a medium just 126 years old, we are at the start of the history of wristwatches. We're only 110 years into a story that will, in all likelihood, go on for several hundred more. The race has just begun. It's in its infancy. And if Omega ever does have the opportunity to wear the crown to reign supreme, there's absolutely nothing to say that another hungry and agile manufacturer won't be very close behind. So yes, categorically, I do believe that Rolex's crown is in jeopardy. I don't think today or tomorrow, but certainly in my lifetime. And if anyone's going to take it, I think it very well may be Omega. Thank you all so much for watching. Before you sign off, do not forget that we are giving away a Rolex. Subscribe to our channel at Theo and Harris. Like this video just for shits. And follow me at Christian Zerone on Instagram to double your chances of winning. Adios, guys. I'll see you soon. I am still an enormous fan of Rolex. They manufacture my favorite watch of all time, which is the Datejust, and we here at Theo and Harris are giving away a Rolex Datejust to one of you lucky subscribers. All you have to do is subscribe to our channel at Theo and Harris, and if you'd like to double your likelihood of winning, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Christian Zerone. We're giving away this Rolex at 100,000 subscribers, and I can't wait to see the reaction of the lucky watch geek that opens up, their UPS box very soon to find a goddamn Datejust at my expense. So go ahead and follow and subscribe and all of that.